All right, today we're working on a 2004 Dodge Hemi 5.7 liter 4x4 quad cab. These fit multiple years. I'm not quite sure, but it's an 04. I think they go up to 06, I believe. You gotta check, but we're doing an EGR valve. The symptom was I pulled some guy at a snowbank and I really had to put it to the boards. And after that, it died out in the middle of pulling them out. And I got them pulled out. And then the next day I started up and it didn't run that good. And the check engine light came on and it was a P0406 code. And that's EGR. And the symptoms was at like 30 miles an hour, it started bogging in and out, revving up and down. And then right after that happens, it dies out. And it did it multiple times. I reset it, and the codes came back on. And this truck ran perfect before that, but I really worked it hard that night. We got 1 foot of snow. So here's the EGR valve that I'm replacing. It's down to the left of the alternator, and right in front of the valve cover. If you look in front of the truck, it'd be to your left. And then I went ahead and 8mm bolts to pull this off. I used some JB80 or WD-40, whatever some kind of penetrating oil to get the bolts because they've been in there since 04. It's 2018 now. So I got them loose. They actually came out pretty easy. I unplugged the plug, the little pick. You pull this back, and then you just squeeze here and pull it out. And then we tuck that away. So once you got these two bolts out, I use a little extension and a deep well. 6-point I prefer because they're rusty. Here's the bolts I pulled out. 6-point, so you get the nice grip on them because these have been in there for a while. But after I got that out, here's the gasket that I smoked. But I'll be back pulling the rest apart here. I'm going to show you guys what other bolts they are. Alright, I'm back. There's 2 bolts that hold it on the engine block. Get some light on the situation here. Right now I got the extension on there. They're 10mm bolts with a 6-point head again. And I got a little extension on there. A deep well will do it. I'm using mids, but there's one there. And then there's I'm gonna move this out of the way. See, there's the socket right there. There's one on each side. It's not that bad to get to. I'll get that off and then we'll show you the old EGR. Alright, here's one of the 2 bolts I pulled out. The length side, so you know it's a 10mm. I'm almost got 1 bolt out left here. Let's see how loose it is. Alright, ouch. If she's still hot. There she is down there. That's where she goes. 2 bolts. Here's the old EGR. I got a new one from O'Reilly's. Lifetime warranty, as long as you own the vehicle. So I'll come back and we'll be putting the new one in. Alright, we're back. Here's the old EGR. You can tell it got pretty damn hot. Little shaft in there. Little plunger deal. I guess they stick. You can clean these, but for the money, lifetime warranty, go with the new one. It's not that big of a job. But here's the 2 gaskets. It goes on there like that, something like that. And this one goes on there, of course. Watch it. But alright, I'll start against installation and then I'll be back. Oh, quick note, before you get the new one installed, go down and inspect this old one, the port on the engine block. You can take some sandpaper and clean that up. That's got a lot of years of buildup on it. I just take a little bit of sandpaper, like 120 or something, 80 grit, I don't know. There. I can clean up a little bit. Okay, what I did is I put the gasket on the EGR valve and then put the bolts through it so it holds it. So when you go put it on the block, the gasket will not slip out. Because if you don't do that, you have a chance of tightening that down and the gasket drops and then it don't tighten in the seat. So this is my little trick. Just screw the bolt holes through the EGR with the gasket, and they'll stay in place. And that's a good, helpful hint. All right, got that bolted to the engine block with my 10 millimeter short extension 6-point. Go back and forth with them when you tighten them. There's a little metal gasket. You got to kind of seat that or crush that in there against the block. So just go back and forth, just snug them, not too tight, of course. They're small bolts. But yeah, and then just give it a little wiggle, make sure she's tight. Yep. Now I'm gonna get the other gasket on and put the pipe on the new EGR. Just inspect this a little bit. Make sure you clean this up a little bit too, so it seats good and it goes into that new valve good. I'm gonna do that right now, and I'll be back. All right, just let you know the difference between here's the old gasket. Got really hot, dried up, old, probably leaking. And then here's the new one. Nice new one, thick. Look how burnt that one is. What a comparison. So I got that pipe all cleaned up, some sandpaper. So now this is going on that part around there, and then it inserts into the new EGR valve. All right, now this is tricky as hell, because these are right here. These are hard to get in there. With that gasket again, you gotta set that gasket up. See, take a look at it. Make sure you got that gasket flush around that whole perimeter, and the bolt started by hand. So what I did was, that gasket was a little hard. So what I did was, I took this part right here, and I honed that gasket out a little bit to make sure them bolts go through there real smoothly, because them bolts were pretty tight and the gasket would want to fall through. So I just honed them gasket holes out a little bit and got it started. Now we just tighten that down. All right, I got them bolts on there. I pulled this heat shield up so it helps you see better than the bolts. So yeah, check it out, make sure it's nice and tight. Got them all equally, went cross back and forth. Now remember, if these little bolts, if they're hard to get out, you must stop and heat this old EGR valve up, else you will break those little bolts off. But this one is actually pretty easy, but I've seen some are worse. But that's just a note to make sure, don't keep unthreading it, because you will snap off and then you're end up drilling out and a bunch of other crap. It's gonna be a lot of extra work. So just go back and forth, they're tight, and heat them up, spray penetrating all of them, and work them back and forth. But yeah, that's all tight. Last step on the engine part is take this plug it back in. There we go. Tap that in, make sure you push this red piece back in there, pull it, make sure it's tight. Then we're gonna go to the truck. The arc sensor is weak too, and that might be because of the EGR. But we're gonna go ahead and reset them. Keys on. Yes. Okay. There we be. And I did do a frame graph on the scan, and the EGR was not working. I graphed it out and it was not working. So we're just gonna test and make sure that the code doesn't pop up. All right, truck's running. Check engine light stayed off. We did not test drive it yet, but before the check engine light came on instantly, the EGR was a hard code, so it would not reset. So already it's doing better than it was. It's already running better too. All right, well, that's a success. So it's an EGR valve on a 2004 Dodge Ram 1500 5.7 liter. Thanks for watching.